Very special day in U.S. history. On June 19th, 1865, that's 155 years ago today, none of us were there, the last group of enslaved people in America were freed. The occasion, though, was bittersweet because it came 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, which some states were slow to recognize. CBS News special correspondent, that's James Brown, has the story of the day that became known as Juneteenth.
Everyone say Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
For the last 3 years, Shantea and Michael McIntyre have celebrated Juneteenth with their 4 kids in their mostly white California neighborhood. What is it about Juneteenth that you want people to know?
It's not just a black holiday. It really is a celebration of freedom, and that's what America is about. And so if you celebrate the 4th of July, you absolutely should celebrate Juneteenth as well.
And everyone just dropped all their tools.
The McIntyres invite their neighbors not only to celebrate, but to use it as a teaching moment.
We reached out to the parents, let them know what we wanted to celebrate. All of the parents were okay with that, and they sent the kids down here. A couple of the parents came as well.
I got text messages from the parents and said, thanks for teaching my kid about that cool holiday, and they can't stop talking about Juneteenth.
Juneteenth stands for June 19th, the day in 1865 when Union General Gordon Granger finally arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce the emancipation of slaves. Texas had kept approximately 250,000 black people enslaved for 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation became law in 1863. And the man who signed it, President Abraham Lincoln, had been assassinated 2 months before Granger arrived.
Can you imagine? So what Juneteenth is, June 19th, is the acknowledgement and, yes, commemoration that there were slaves that lasted 2 more years, and for them, it was a lifetime.
Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee has been pushing to make Juneteenth a national holiday for 2 decades.
The potential of having this national holiday opens a whole world of discussion for America, a whole reckoning with her racism and the systemic racism that permeates the nation.
Where do you sense legislatively we are? Are we poised to see this come across the finish line?
I do. We are just very pleased at the number of co-sponsors and members who are interested in being supportive. In the resolution that we already introduced, we have 204 co-sponsors. It's delayed freedom, but it is the only recognition of the original sin of this nation. So Juneteenth is an ability to tell the story of slavery.
African Americans haven't waited for national recognition to celebrate Juneteenth. Since 1866, parades and barbecues have been a staple of black communities from Houston and San Antonio to Chicago and Little Rock.
They have some really big Juneteenth celebrations, and I would love to go out to one of those because, I mean, there's thousands of people out there.
Back in California, the McIntyres feel their small celebration is one way to bridge the racial divide during this tense moment in our history.
My husband and I, we took our children to a peaceful protest, and I found myself walking with a fist in the air. And there was a movement that when I looked around, it wasn't just black people holding their hands up. And so that's why I feel like there is some momentum around Juneteenth.
James, I have to say first, bravo, love the McIntyres. What a great couple they are. I've known about Juneteenth for years and have occasionally celebrated, gone to some celebrations, but I can't honestly say to you that it's something I consciously celebrated every single year. But it really feels like we're in a moment this time with the death of George Floyd and others. It seems to be giving added importance to Juneteenth this year. Do you think so too?
Oh, absolutely. And sadly, because of a horrific event like that, many people are thinking about it. But the McIntyres are a perfect family example of that as they educate their kids and the ones in the neighborhood. Gail, look, we understand that teaching involves explanation and demonstration. And from that comes a practical application and discussion. And it's so nice to see that the young people are embracing that.
Yes. I think so, too. Many in corporate America are recognizing Juneteenth, including Viacom CBS, the company we work for, but you know, in TV news business, James, we work on holidays. So I'm thinking 9:01, I'm going to take the rest of the day off. But a lot of corporations for the first time this year are paying attention. I also think that's a good thing.
And let me be clear as well, too, Gail. Thank you for your honesty, and that's exactly what I'm doing today as well, too. Again, amplifying on what teaching is all about. And the fact of the matter is, all 7 mountains of influence in society, whether it's arts and entertainment, business, government, media, we ought to all embrace it because, Gail, it is shared history.
It really is. The president has raised a couple of eyebrows. If you looked at the Wall Street Journal, I know you've seen it, where he says that he made Juneteenth famous. Nobody had heard of it before. He mentioned the controversy in Tulsa where he moved his rally. Well, that certainly is not true, but a lot of people are learning about it for the first time.
Well, keep in mind, as Alvin Patrick and I indicated in that piece, Alvin being my producer, since 1866, people of color have been celebrating it, and in a growing number. I would think that it stands on its own.
Well, now that you know, you know. You can't ignore it any longer. James Brown, always good to see you.
And be free.
In April of 1867, the Invisible Empire holds a secret meeting in Nashville, calling together all of the different Klan dens from throughout the state. Their goal is to galvanize the individual dens into a single deadly army. The first campaign? Disrupt the upcoming national and local elections in 1868. Leading the insurgent army is new Grand Wizard and Confederate war hero Nathan Bedford Forrest.
When the Civil War begins, Nathan Bedford Forrest joins the rebel cause and earns a reputation as being a very fearsome cavalry raider. During the war, he was an outstanding tactician, and he led some very successful raids that disrupted Union supply lines and communications centers.
Forrest had earned notoriety for his role in the Fort Pillow Massacre of 1864. After defeating Union forces at Fort Pillow in West Tennessee, Forrest soldiers began ruthlessly executing black prisoners of war. With his taste for blood and his hatred of blacks, Forrest seems to be the perfect man to lead the Klan. With Forrest's help, the Klan quickly spreads throughout the entire South.
The Klan became sort of a paramilitary arm of the Democratic Party, which of course was supported by the former Confederates.
An observer for a New York newspaper writes of Klan activity in Georgia.
There are parties of rebels now going about through the state murdering loyal citizens in their houses at night and shooting them from bushes during the day.
In South Carolina, an agent for the National Republican Party reports,
"It is not safe for me to go alone, unarmed, into the upcountry here. Negroes are daily shot dead. I fear that thousands of voters will be kept away or driven from the polls."
This fear becomes a reality. In 1868, voter registration rolls show that there are over 100,000 more black voters than white voters in the South. But violence against blacks wipes out this numeric advantage. While Republican Ulysses S. Grant wins the presidency, many Democrats win back local and state offices. White violence is making an impact.
Southerners generally were in favor of the Ku Klux Klan because they were providing some stability. They were providing a sense of law and order. In this chaos, in this pandemonium that has been let loose in the South.
In Tennessee, it is believed that Southern white supremacists murder an average of one person a day leading up to the elections of 1868.
Your name again?
I'm Jared Davis.
And your
I'm
name?
Alex Gregory.
And then what are you going to say when people say, man, y'all are crazy about a bunch of coons? What is your response?
I'm just being a man.
What about you?
I'm just a man of America, that's it.
All right. You know, if I had an extra flag, I would give it to you.
Yeah.
Hey, we got one.
Oh, you got one? Hey, he gonna give you one.
Oh, snap.
Woo!
Y'all mind representing Alabama?
I'm from them. I'm from Florida.
Hey, you from Florida?
I'm from Florence, Alabama. I just moved here 2 below. I'm an Alabama boy.
Alabama boy. Oh, what part of Alabama you from?
Florence.
Florence?
Hey, I was from Florence.
Florida too.
Absolutely. I'm from the west side over there by AC.
Well, y'all gonna
You ain't
have
on
to join
Mobile
us.
Street, are you? Mobile. Yes,
Y'all gonna have to join us.
Muscle shows.
sir.
You know
Only you two do such things.
All right, hey, he giving the Alabama Confederate flag.
Yeah.
Now, I like that.
Well, them on
That's the Alabama battle.
That's it.
Yeah, I
All right.
them flags.
Hey, I like that flag. I got it.
Any of y'all be interested in some flags?
I got you. Yes, sir.
So what does the flag represent to you?
Well, to be honest, I never really took it into consideration.
I'm ready to leave. I got enough
where I grew
ammunition.
up, I grew up rough and violent, so I never. Flag that I grew up with was Paru, so I grew up, you know, initiating in gangs. So what that meant to us was, you know, unity. You know what I'm saying? As one as a whole. So. But nowadays, there's no such thing as, hey, I'm a blood and I'm white, or I'm blood and I'm black. It's, hey, we all people, so we do everything as one, you know what I'm saying? Fuck the government.
So it's
Fuck the government.
always.
Hey, you got a flag. Join our group. We're gonna convert you to crack.
Call me black nigga. Call me black nigga. Call me black nigga. Call me black nigga.
We're gonna convert you to crack.
Call me black nigga.
He's a black man.
He said,
He said call him black man.
Ain't no redneck, call me black nigga.
Well, you in the club now.
The 4 black men you see on this screen, we support the men and women in blue.
Yes.
And you need to share this. Share this so that they will know that we stand with them. We're not going along with the demonic left, trying to convince everyone that that the police department is bad. We're not going along with it. We understand how they're trying to divide this country, and they're trying to remove law and order out of the way so that they can just reap havoc on all of us here in the country. This is crazy.
Absolutely.
Dude. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys heard about the police officer in Atlanta. They got charged. They trumped up some charges, right? No pun intended, against this police officer, saying that he committed murder and that he's possibly going to get the death penalty. Jay, we'll start with you.
I feel bad for every police officer that's on the job right now that's being handcuffed, and yes, pun is intended, from them doing their job. Because now they're going to second guess themselves if they're pulling their weapon on a perpetrator that's about to kill them, and they want to go home just like everyone else. And I don't agree. You know, and this is the crazy thing about it. We would not be having all of this garbage going on right now if it was not an election year. That's the bottom line right there. You got these people that's up. You got these 2 police officers that's up on murder charges because it's an election year. You're going to play with a man's life because it's an election year.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And we're going to talk about the District Attorney General Howard here in a minute, but let's get Jamal's take on this.
You know what? So many people, and what I learned today was that he fired that taser twice. See, I just thought he had fired it once. This man turned around and was running and went 1, 2. I've always said Mr. Brooks, who was drunk, thought he grabbed a cop's gun. He didn't know he had a taser, and his intent was to kill those 2 officers.
Yes.
This is, once again, you have a black mayor, a black police chief, and you crying about systematic racism in Atlanta. How you gonna have systematic racism in Atlanta with a black police chief, black mayor,
black
city
sheriff,
council, majority black,
black sheriff.
How, black sheriff, black DA, how in the world are y'all out here burning and looting? Because systematic racism is a lie. It's just code word for we too lazy to accept personal responsibility.
And they feel inferior to anyone else.
Yes.
Let's get Jermaine's take on this.
You know, I think this is such a shame, and I believe it's a fraud. There's a big fraud going on in this country, and it's called racism. Police brutality. I understand that, you know, a lot of police practices need to be looked at, but I don't believe police are the problem. I think we have a degenerate problem here in the U.S.
I agree.
Yes.
Of all colors, not just black, but of all colors. And the Democrat Party is hanging cops to dry right now. They're hanging them out so that they can use them for their political gain. And let me tell you something, it's absolutely wrong. And we need to stand by the cops. And one thing I've been saying on my show is that we need to start looking at the real problem. And the real problem is the welfare system that is basically programming these young black youth into, you know, doing crime and criminality. Let's be honest about what's going on here. The cops aren't the problem. People need to take what I call personal responsibility for your own actions. That's what the problem is.
Exactly. That is the problem. The black community, and you know what? They play on the emotions. You guys always talk about this. The Democrats always play on the emotions of black people, and guess what happened? Black people go out and they burn up a Wendys. What Wendys got to do with it?
Some big developments today from Atlanta Fire and Rescue also. They've named a woman they believe set the fire in the Wendys in southeast Atlanta a week ago today. An arrest warrant has been issued for a woman, 29-year-old Natalie White. They say she is one of the suspects accused of setting the Wendys on University Avenue on fire. It's the woman on your screen you see right now. Officials previously said she may have been part of a group. We're told more arrests are possible. Last weekend, a reward was issued for help in identifying this masked woman, who they say is not Natalie White.
Right now, Atlanta police are searching for the woman who they believe set the fire at the Wendys where Rayshard Brooks was killed. Police releasing these images and offering a $10,000 reward for her arrest. Viral cell phone video showing what many believe is the same woman putting an accelerant through the window of the restaurant. Protesters say she wasn't even with them. Francesca Amaker following these developments from Fulton County right now. Francesca, Brooks' death not only sparking protests, but heated conversations online as well. What are people saying?
It certainly is, Sheba. A lot of people are talking about this one, specifically those peaceful protesters. I have to reemphasize that they say this is our Southwest Atlanta Wendys. This is our community that employs our people. We would not at all want this to be burned down. So they're upset about these infiltrators, specifically that woman who police say started that fire.
Guess what happened? Black people go out and they burn up a Wendys.
Now to a developing story. One of the women suspected of burning down the Atlanta Wendys where Rayshard Brooks was fatally shot by police is waking up in jail this morning. Natalie White arrested late yesterday afternoon. She's been charged with first-degree arson. Her arrest happening as family and friends were saying their final goodbyes to Rayshard Brooks, the father of four. His funeral service held at Ebenezer Baptist Church for only close family and friends. Guests included Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, rapper T.I., and many more. Nick Sturdivant is live at the Fulton County Jail for us this morning, where Natalie White is being held. Nick, there were questions as to whether White was connected to Brooks after he mentioned her name to police before he was killed.
Sheba, the nature of their relationship for now is still a mystery. White's attorney said they were good friends but did not go into detail. Here's what the Brooks family had to say through their attorney. We were unaware of any connection between the Natalie White that was arrested yesterday for arson, and the Natalie White mentioned by Rayshard Brooks in the body camera video. The only person who would answer that question, or could answer that question rather, regarding any connection they may have had is Natalie White. White's attorney says she did not start the fire at the Wendys on University Avenue in Southeast Atlanta more than a week ago, and pictures will prove that. He believes she should be granted her release, she should be released because she does not have a criminal record. Here's what he had to say.
When you look at it, I think she's clearly going to get bond, and I think the only fair thing to do is to give her signature bond